Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's video. My name is Marcy Melzer, and I am an intuitive speech and language pathologist and language facilitation consultant. And I help parents teach their late talking children how to use the words they need to share their wisdom with the world in my Waves of Communication parent coaching programs. Today, I am here to bring you 5 strategies that you can use to help your back to school experience become easy and fun, and you can facilitate language all the while. All right, so let's get started with strategy number 1, which is research together. So I like this strategy because every time I'm going to do something new, if I'm going to go on a trip or go explore a new place, I always do a little research before so that I can know what to expect a little bit more when I get there. And that's very, very helpful for you to do with your late talking child. Invite them to join you as you research about your new school or your new classroom together. You'll be obviously given the opportunity to go meet a teacher, view a classroom, go to the school, all of those kinds of things. And that's kind of the research that most parents think about. But what I want to tell you about today is some other ways to do research about a back to school experience. So what you want to do is you want to look for, the way we do other research, videos and articles and books and different things that you can find that talk about back to school experiences, and try to find videos that come from a child's perspective. So there are a lot of things that children feel when they go to school. If they're feeling anxious about it, if they're feeling excited about it, if they're feeling scared about it, if they're feeling like they're gonna, run the show and they're gonna be like the best student ever. However your child feels about going back to that back to school experience, they might want to read a story or see a video of another child who's experiencing some of those same feelings. It always helps to know ahead of time that there's going to be other people there who are feeling the same kinds of things that you're feeling. Now, you'll also need to do a little research about your particular school. For example, how is your child going to get there every day? Are they riding the bus? Are they going to be driving with you? As you do the necessary investigation and making plans for your child to get to school every day, make sure you clue your child in on those plans, including transportation. Make sure your child understands what the process is for them to get to school and get home from school way before the first day. And then the other thing that you want to talk about and research about together is the uniform. What are other kids wearing to school? Maybe they don't have a uniform, but there is a dress code. And so you will be buying new clothes or sorting out clothes in your child's wardrobe that are school clothes. And set them aside, put them in a separate place for your child so that they know that these are the clothes that are set aside especially for your school days. It'll help you get ready when you're doing it in the morning. And when you're talking through these processes and explaining both the transportation thing that you visit and even the school dress code, all the clothes that you're going to wear, this research ahead, don't do it without your child being as part of the process. Include them in your shopping trips and things like that. And that goes on to moving into supplies. You're going to have to do research about the supplies that you'll need for school. Include your child in that process. Let them help pick out things like maybe their backpack. And that helps them have some ownership of their responsibility and the things that they do and they need to keep track of when they go to school. They will have things that belong to them that will be their responsibility. It's your backpack. And they'll be hearing these kinds of words from their teachers and other people. Get your backpack. Where's your jacket? Where are your shoes? Kids need to understand that their school things belong to them, because when they go to school, they'll have of a lot of other kids who have their own things, and stuff gets mixed up and stuff gets lost. So in this process of research about the supplies and equipment that you need, and wardrobe that you're going to wear for school, make sure that your child understands that these things are theirs. Let them see you marking their name on them. And that way they understand that they have responsibility to care for these things, that they're not just general things they can leave behind, but that they have responsibility to keep them in their backpack and that they do that stuff. So you'll also want to research the people you're gonna see. And that kind of can happen while you're watching videos, but it also can happen if you can look at the website of the school. If you haven't met your teacher, you can see pictures of the teacher and the principal and other kids that are there from last year. So if you look at the pictures of the website of the school, you'll see photographs of other children wearing their clothes, doing their things on the campus of the school where your child's going to be going. So you'll want to look at those people, talk about how they feel. Look, they look happy to be there. They're learning so hard. They're patient. They're waiting. All the things that you see in the pictures on the website. This little bit of research will help your child know more about what to expect at school, help you know more about what to expect at school, and help you in the preparation process. And then, of course, while you're talking about the things that you are gathering together and preparing to do, you're going to be using all the vocabulary that your child is going to need to know and need to hear. All right. Moving into strategy number 2 is where we're going to talk about, you're going to practice school experiences at home, the kinds of experiences they're going to have getting into the school, meeting people at school, sitting in a classroom, moving from classroom to classroom, eating lunch at the school, all the different kinds of experiences that it takes for a child to get through the day. You want to see if you can give your child exposure or practice with as many of those activities as you can in your everyday life. Now, you don't have to teach them the academics. We're talking about the navigation of getting in and getting around in school. So they might have to sit for a little while if they're going to be in a classroom. They might have to sit for 5 or 10 minutes and wait for something to happen. They might have to sit and wait for their turn. That's another thing that you'll have to potentially work on with your child, because if they're in a class with, 10 or 20 or even 6 kids, they still will have to wait their turn for things while the teacher is passing out papers or calling on kids, or it's going to take some effort for your child to sit and wait, especially if they're an only child at home. So you'll want to practice sitting, and you'll want to practice waiting, and you'll want to practice sharing. And, obviously lots of kids at school. So sharing the things that taking turns playing with toys, sharing that way, but also taking turns by sharing. If I have 5 blocks and you have 5 blocks, we can both, or how we can take turns building one thing together. These kinds of sharing experiences and sharing tangible objects. You'll want to practice those things with your kiddo before they go to school, because they're going to have to do these things for sure. And also meeting new people, because at school they're going to meet a lot of new people all at one time. And if your child's not very good at meeting new people, you're going to want to try to help them get better at meeting people in smaller groups before you go to school. Play dates with friends, small group classes like swim classes where there's just you and one other family or 2 other families, or small class dance classes, or even play dates like they have play away days, open gym days, things like that, where there are other families there. You want to have your child get experiences in social situations before they go to school, meeting friends, because this is an experience at school that can be very, very challenging for a late talking child, and help them learn experiences and how to say hi. And even if they're really not very verbal, just giving a high five or a bump or an elbow or something like that, a nod, just to let people know that they do like them. So trying to help them feel safe through the process is going to be something that you can work on before they even go to school. So if that's your situation, your child's very, very attached to you, you really want to try to work on getting some new social experiences in small group environments before you go into the school situation, the brand new school situation. All right, strategy number 3 is to use some school lingo when you do your language facilitation modeling. With language facilitation, we're always modeling the right words the right way at the right time. And we do that by talking about the situations that we're engaging in right now. And school, you're going to hear a lot of new words maybe that you don't use at home, like line up and wait and come over here and class. And, you know, like the teacher might refer to the children as a class, and your child might not be used to being referred to as part of a class before, unless you did some classes like, you know, dance classes or things like that. They'll hear the word teacher if they've never heard teacher before. They'll hear the word supplies, and they'll see buses and schedules, and they'll hear bells, and they'll all different kinds of things that are just related to the school situation. Now, one way to have access to this school lingo and find out what it is back to strategy 1, where you did your research and you did some looking at reading stories and going to school and talking with your kids about that back to school experience, practicing those words that they might hear a lot. But the other way to know the school lingo is listen to your children when they're coming home. If they are verbal, you'll hear them start to say those words that they hear from their teachers. If they're not verbal yet, and you'll see the lingo in the communication that you get from the teacher. The teacher will use the phrases that they'll say a lot in class in the correspondence that they send home with you. So look at your teacher's notes, those first day of class notes and that whole packet of papers you got to fill out. Watch for the language in those things to hear how your teacher kind of talks. She might say a lot of, hey kids. She might be a super fun one. She might do all different kinds of phrases. Maybe she's a teacher who sings a lot and she uses a lot of singing in her class. That'll be something to kind of know ahead of time. And if not, you'll know as soon as your kids come home, because your kids will start talking and using this lingo that their teachers use. You want to try to use some of that lingo too to help them relate the school experience to home. All right, let's see. Yeah, they'll hear the word listen a lot at school because teachers will tell kids to listen to them. And sometimes they'll use special songs like the cleanup song or the line up song, or they'll have special hand claps like, you know, they'll do a rhythm or something like that, and that'll be the clue for the kids to listen and focus, because teachers need to get kids' attention, and they'll use all kinds of fun ways to do that. See what your kids come home trying and doing to get your attention, because they might try to use those behaviors and tricks that their teachers use to get their attention. They might use those same kind of strategies, communication strategies, to get your attention. So pay attention to the school lingo that's coming from the teachers, aides, other parents, and other kids. All right. Strategy number 4 for getting and making back to school move nice and smooth is that if your child is limited verbal or nonverbal and they're going to school, even if they know the teacher, sometimes kids will roll over and have the same teacher a couple of years in a row, sometimes not. Even if the teacher does know your child, they've had a break over the summer. So if your child is limited verbal or nonverbal at all, you want to take some time before school starts to send an email communication to your child's teacher and the special ed director and let them know that you are, first of all, interested in knowing all about the special ed services that your child's going to receive, and let them know that you want to communicate with them about everything that they're doing to help your child. That's the first thing you want to do. Before you try to tell them how to do anything, the first correspondence is, I want to be on your team and I want to be part of what you're doing to help my child. How can I as a mom help you as a school help my child. You definitely want to communicate that to everyone, because your child's not going to be able to communicate everything, and you want to make sure that you want to set off on the right foot with your whole special education team that's working with your child. So you want to send this email to your child's teacher, but also to the special ed director or whoever is in charge of special ed at your child's school. If you don't know who that is, send it to the principal, and the principal will make sure that it gets there. In fact, it's not a bad idea to send it to the principal anyway, just to let them know, number one, you want to be that mom who's on the team with the special ed people, because you get a lot more flies with honey and when you're part of that team. And you also want a lot of communication from this team, because your child's nonverbal and your child's not able to tell you what other kids are able to tell you about what's going on or how the teacher does things or what kinds of things they need from you, where other kids might be able to. So you want to make sure that you get real clear communication. And then you want to ask a couple questions. You want to ask a question about, how is the best way for me to communicate with you, and what is the best way for me to know how to help you? So first of all, you tell them how you're going to help them, and the second of all is you want to sort of establish what is the best way for me to communicate with you, because you want to get those communication lines open, and it's different for every teacher, every school, every classroom, everything. And as a mom, you want to make sure a good teacher will let you know what those lines of communication are, but you as a mom want to be proactive with your child and make sure that those lines of communication are open and respect them. If the teacher says it's best for me to communicate with email, then don't be calling them up all the time, because they're not going to be a teacher who's going to respond to you calling them. If they are a teacher who is a phone conversation person and they're bad at replying to emails and they're not going to respond to your emails and you keep sending them emails, that's just going to make you frustrated as a parent. So what you really need to do is find out the kind of communication that works best for your child's teacher, the main person who's controlling their show, and find out what that is and respect it and use it often so that it stays open. So if it's a weekly email maybe you need to send, that might seem like a lot more communication than your teacher receives from the other parents. But if you are a parent who wants to be involved and you want to have that level of communication, you have to establish it yourself. Don't rely on the teacher to do it for you. She's got a class full of kids and God only knows what else is on her plate. If you want to have clear communication with your child's school, it's up to you to establish what it is. And it's up to the school to respect your needs as well, but you also, again, get a lot more flies with honey. So establish your communication. So in your email, this number 4 strategy is your email. You're going to email about what is the best way to communicate. You let them know that you want to be part of the team. Let them know ask them what is the best way to communicate and respect that. And then you also in this email want to let them know in very specific terms how your child communicates non-verbally. Because at home, even if at school they're using a picture system or they're going to get them going in some kind of a communication system or they're going to teach them some way to work the school stuff, it will help them a ton to know how your child is communicating things to you at home. So the things you want to let them know is, how is your child communicating when they are happy about something? Not just their feelings. Don't just say, my child communicates their feelings, whatever. No, you need to be more specific for the school. If my child is happy about something, he'll do X. If my child is upset about something, he'll do X. And you want to say, if or when my child is X, he will do feeling, doing, wanting, whatever. When my child has a wet diaper, he will do X. When my child needs to whatever, he will do X. These little things, these behaviors that your child uses to communicate, if you send those things a week ahead to your child's teacher, if your child's nonverbal, limited verbal, they will know how to respond to your child's nonverbal needs from day one. If you don't do this and you don't clue them in, then they're going to be stuck trying to intuitively figure these things out over the first few days or week or month or whatever of school. The more information about the nonverbal, the things that your child uses all the time, And you want to be pretty specific when my child's happy, especially if they have specific needs. Now, if your child does have dietary needs, medical needs, they're on a G-tube, they have all these other things going on, once again, before school starts, you're going to have those things very clearly outlined in a way you do. But once again, you have to present these things as a resource for your child's teacher. Your role on the special education team is to be the home base, the home assistance for these moms, and for the teachers. So that's what you as a parent need to do, is make sure that you're providing them with the information your child needs. They need about your child's communication. How do they communicate their feelings? How do they communicate their needs at home? And then just having your teacher understand that about your child will make this whole process a lot smoother. They're going to establish whatever communication system they come up with to work at school to have your child fit in the class, get through the day, and do all of that, whatever. And it does not need to be. In fact, it should be as closely aligned with the language facilitation that you're doing at home as possible. So different teachers have different communication levels. Some of them don't appreciate parents sharing too much information. Other ones want to know more. You're going to have to feel it out, intuitively feel it out with your child's teacher and staff, so that you can keep these communication lines open. And that's what this preschool email is going to really help you do. And if school has already started, it's not too late to send this email. It's just a little overwhelming this first week. So don't expect for a really fast response right away. Although, like I said, every teacher is different and every situation is different. Open communication is your best bet always. All right. And then there's one more tip that I have to make your school experience easy, and that is about, also included in this email, you want to communicate about your child's behaviors. So if your child is limited verbal or nonverbal, and they have some behaviors that would be on a behavior plan, that would be concerning, that touching other children, moving and eloping, anything that this school is going to want to be aware of. And sometimes these behaviors change. They go in cycles. Sometimes kids are runners for a period of time, and then they stop running, and then they start running again. You have to really be clear with your child's school about the triggers for their behaviors. If a child has a behavior plan, that behavior plan should identify what is the antecedent or the cause for the behavior. Is it that a child needs attention? Is the child that, they have other needs? Why is the child doing this behavior? What's the cause for the behavior? What is the behavior trying to communicate? That's the behavior part. What is that? And then what are the consequences for that behavior? Because if a child runs and then they're punished for that running, or whatever the consequence is for that running, if they're spoken to, if they're coddled, if they're whatever it is, that the process of what happens when this child does this behavior at the school, the response to that is what you want to know is going on. So if your child has a behavior plan and they're going into school with behaviors are going to need to be modified, running, biting, touching other kids, any of these things that are happening in your household at the very beginning of the school year, you really need to have a very clear understanding of how those behaviors are going to be managed in your child's school. And it may require you being there and going to the building quite a bit at the beginning of the school year as your child transitions into those things. And you're going to want to know and communicate with that school, how do you regulate these behaviors at home? If your child is a runner, if your child, has these behaviors potentially at school, they're doing them at home, and what are you doing to help regulate those behaviors? If it's anxiety that triggers the emotion, what are you doing to regulate the anxiety? If attention is triggering the behavior, then what are you doing to regulate attention? What are you doing at home that's helping you successfully navigate these behaviors? And you want school to be using the same kinds of strategies, and vice versa. If the school is using strategies that you don't agree with, then that's when you need to intervene. But the only way you're going to know What those strategies are is if you keep those lines of communication very open and you're not threatening about the way that you go through exploring these things. Understandably, these behaviors are a concern for schools because they do put kids at risk, and a school has a responsibility to limit risk at all costs. And you want to be part of that team to help the school limit that risk for those behaviors. So nonverbal children have lots of behaviors. They communicate with their behaviors. Make sure you understand what those behaviors are communicating and let the school know that this is your child. Your child is a physical communicator, and that when you do language facilitation and you respond to those physical communications in a way that facilitates spoken language, you can develop a lot of language out of them. But if you facilitate those behaviors, if you treat them like aggression or they are aggression potentially because the child's so frustrated, but if you're punishing the child and not addressing the underlying behavior and communication, and you're just addressing the behavior, that's going to be a fail situation for your child. It's going to continually be frustrating. And you as a parent may have a lot of problem solving to do with a school about those things. It should start day one. And even before the school starts, it shouldn't begin a few weeks in after things get settled, yada, yada, yada. You should have those things planned out and understood before your child sets foot on the campus out of your site. So that's the last strategy about language facilitation for nonverbal children, because we're facilitating the language kids are using for these nonverbal behaviors. And at home, you should be teaching all of the language that kids need to use to communicate those feelings instead of behavior. But at school, it can be all holes barred. Even if you've been doing amazing language facilitation at home and you've been getting wonderful speech from your child this summer using strategies in my program or not in my program or just on my website and stuff, you can, all that stuff can go out the window as soon as your child hits a school campus, because it's busy, it's loud, there's lots of kids, they don't intuitively understand your child like you do. And it's all different at schools. And teachers are very well trained to deal with these things most of the time, but you never know. And situations happen all the time, and it can be awfully scary. So the more you can do to prep and prepare for these back to school adventures, the better you'll be, the better you'll feel, and the better you'll be able to help your child ride out all the ups and downs of their feelings, the excitement, the frustration, the worry, the fear, all those things that happen to every kid when they go to school on the first day. You kind of never know what to expect, and hopefully these strategies are going to help you make that experience transition into your new educational experience be as smooth as possible. Thank you so much for joining me on this Wave of the Week video this week. And if you did get some benefit from it, give me a like, please. Share with your friends, and have a wonderful back to school experience, everybody. I hope you have a fab school year, that you get a lot of fun education done, and that it enhances your life, because that's what school is all about. It's not a place that you go that's scary. It's a place that you go to have fun and enjoy and learn and make new friends and be part of a community. And I really hope that your new school experience is wonderful for you. Have a great year, everybody, in your new school. And if you're not in your homeschooling and you want to continue to learn how to do language facilitation, you are welcome to join my program, wavesofcommunication.com. I can help you teach your child how to talk way faster than speech therapy using the natural verbal speech that is already inside of them. Thanks for joining me, everybody, and I'll see you all on my next video.